Next on the news.
Since I was small, I always felt the Lord calling me to be a priest.
We'll share a glimpse into a day in the life of one of the youngest seminarians at St. Joseph's Seminary in Dunwoody. Cardinal Dolan is disappointed that Kamala Harris won't attend next month's Al Smith dinner, but he's not giving up hope that the Veep will change her mind. President Biden delivers his final address to the UN General Assembly, urging continued support for Ukraine and calling for an end to the conflict in the Middle East. Plus, we'll join the celebration of Hispanic heritage at St. Athanasius Catholic Academy in Bensonhurst. I'm Christine Persichetti. Current News starts right now. The spiritual fathers of tomorrow are students today at St. Joseph's Seminary in Dunwoody. The classrooms are filled with future priests learning the basics and beyond. Current News' Jessica Easthope shadowed St. Joseph's youngest seminarian on one of his first days of class.
It's easy to feel small while standing in the shadow of something so much bigger than yourself. But Elvis Toribio isn't intimidated. He's been preparing for this his whole life.
Since I was small, I always felt the Lord calling me to be a priest. I just really enjoyed being in church and always really enjoyed having everything to do with the church.
Elvis is the youngest seminarian walking the halls of St. Joseph's Seminary in Dunwoody. The history, legacy, and future of the seminary's mission is now a part of his journey to the priesthood.
Dogmatically, that we are created in God's image and likeness has a moral implication.
With a full course load, fundamental theology, canon law, and psychology to name a few, Elvis is getting used to his classes and also what he wears to class.
I'm used to just wearing a regular polo, but now with the collar on, it feels kind of surreal.
Elvis, who was born in the Dominican Republic and moved to Queens Village in 2011, will spend his next 4 years in study at the seminary. After that, he hopes to be back serving the same community that raised him as a priest, specifically ministering to the elderly and sick, inspired by seeing his grandmother's faith grow in her last years.
The church being close to her was also very comforting for her in her last few years, so I want to lean into that and just give those people a little bit of hope.
These days, Elvis finds hope of his own in the fellow future priests he sits in class with as they become fast friends. It turns out priestly fraternity starts long before ordination.
Getting to know each other just helps with that coming out of ourselves and just realize that we're not alone in this.
In the classroom and the cafeteria, Christ is everywhere, and Elvis has taken the first step in surrendering to his call.
I know that's where God is calling me to be at.
But for now, there's a lot to learn. Class starts at 8:30 a.m. In Dunwoody, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Coming up later in the newscast, how the church is offering mental health support for men studying for the priesthood as they undergo an extra year of formation focused on prayer and personal growth. New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan says he is disappointed with the news that Vice President Kamala Harris won't be attending next month's Al Smith charity dinner in Manhattan. Instead, the Democratic presidential candidate's campaign says she will be out campaigning in a battleground state on October 17th, which is just 3 weeks before the election. Her opponent, former President Donald Trump, will be there, saying it is an honor to attend the historic Catholic fundraiser. But the Cardinal is not giving up hope that the vice president will also be there.
We're not giving up. You know who's been a help to us, Lauren, is Senator Schumer and Governor Hochul. They both are working hard to see that they convince her to come.
The gathering is sold out, and an estimated 1,500 guests will attend the black tie affair. The event is named after New York Governor Al Smith, who was the first Catholic presidential nominee for a major party. He lost to Republican Herbert Hoover in 1928. Pope Francis is back on schedule after a day of rest. The Holy Father had canceled his scheduled audiences on Monday because of a mild flu-like condition. But today he's back at work, meeting with the bishops of Mozambique, who are making their ad limina visits to the Vatican to report on the status of their dioceses. The Vatican press office had said the 87-year-old pontiff would be resting on Monday as a precautionary measure ahead of his scheduled trip on Thursday to Luxembourg and Belgium. World leaders are gathered at the United Nations, including President Joe Biden, who delivered his final address to the General Assembly. The president urged the international body to keep up its robust support for Ukraine, which has been fighting against the Russian invasion since 2022. He also spoke of the urgent need to end the Middle East conflict as Israel and Hezbollah edge toward all-out war, and Israel's fight against Hamas in Gaza nears the one-year mark.
Now is the time for the parties to finalize its terms, bring the hostages home, and secure security for Israel and Gaza free of Hamas' grip.
Meanwhile, Israeli warplanes are in the skies over Beirut today. Israel and Hezbollah have been trading waves of strikes a day after Israel targeted the military group. More than 500 people were killed on Monday, the deadliest day in Lebanon in nearly 2 decades. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has told the people of Lebanon to leave areas where Israel is targeting Hezbollah. Thousands are fleeing their homes. In Missouri, a death row inmate is now facing execution after the state Supreme Court refused to stop it. In 2001, Marcellus Williams was convicted of the 1998 stabbing death of a former newspaper reporter. Williams has always maintained his innocence, and in a rare move, St. Louis's top prosecutor filed a motion to vacate the conviction in January. Among the reasons, one of the prosecutors in the original trial said he didn't accept a potential juror because, like Williams, he was black. As of now, the only person who can stop the execution is Governor Michael Parson. He issued a statement Monday saying he does not plan to do so, citing 15 hearings that allowed Williams' conviction to stand. Williams is scheduled to die by lethal injection tonight. Turning now to the issue of mental health and how the Catholic Church is addressing it. A seminary in Minnesota is offering support for its seminarians as they undergo an extra year of formation focused on prayer and personal growth. This so-called propedeutic stage was approved by Pope Francis a couple years ago.
Il vostro tempo di formazione in seminario è un'opportunità per approfondire lo spirito di comunione fraterna, non solo tra di voi. Dobbiamo riconoscersi parte di un unico grande popolo che ha ricevuto le promesse di Dio come un dono, non come un privilegio.
In 2021, St. Paul's Seminary in Minnesota became one of the first in North America to add this stage to their curriculum.
What ends up happening is the men in this short time, the amount of growth and the depth of the growth is just unlike anything I've seen in other ways or manners of formation.
Throughout this stage, the men study literature and focus on prayer. They also meet twice a week with a psychologist in what's called process groups. There, they learn how to be appropriately vulnerable by opening up about their emotions, past experiences, and struggles.
Sometimes that means, things like depression, anxiety. Sometimes it's just simply looking at, boy, here's my family experience, or here's some trauma I had in the past, and here's how it's affecting me now. And or here's a struggle I might be having that I don't know what to do with, and so I want to bring to this group for help and support.
The process groups aren't the only aspect of this seminary stage that can be life-altering. The men also make a digital fast throughout the year, only using phones or screens during an allotted time on Saturdays. In the Diocese of Brooklyn, a celebration of Hispanic heritage. It was a cultural fiesta at St. Athanasius Catholic Academy in Bensonhurst. There was lots of fun and music as students celebrated Hispanic Heritage Month. They wore colorful costumes and showed off some dance moves. How cool. That is this Currents News Update. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.
the same story every month, but always with a different book.
And she prayed to God, like, to help me.
The book club meets at St. Gregory the Great Parish in Belrose, but it's just one of the groups this parishioner of 55 years is involved in.
Because it's my home, it's my home away from home.
How Maureen O'Doherty makes up the pulse of the parish, Wednesday on Currents News.